Your monthly subscription box from Postflybox.com includes all the materials needed to tie a dozen flies, along with some extra goodies. The Conehead Twisted Bugger is a rather gaudy-looking streamer that's designed to get down deep where the fish are, attract their attention, and then get them to eat. To start, feed the point of one of the hooks into the small hole of one of the orange conehead beads and slide it up to behind the hook eye. Get the assembly firmly secured in the jaws of your tying vise, then pick up the spool of solder wire. While holding the bitter end of the wire in the fingertips of your left hand, start taking touching wraps with your right. This fly is meant to sink fast, so 12 or 15 turns works well. With the turns made, helicopter the wire to break it off close, then slide the wraps forward up into the cone, and while holding the wraps with your right hand, tuck the little tail end in with your left. Doing it this way ensures no wire is wasted. Load a bobbin with a spool of black unithread and start taking wraps with it immediately behind the weight to keep it wedged up into the back of the cone head. After you've built a small thread dam, you can snip the excess tag end off close. Continue taking thread wraps back and forth over top of the wire wraps to keep them locked into place. Select a single marabou feather and coax the fibers into alignment with the tips pointed toward the rear of the fly. Measure to form a tail about a full hook in length and transfer that measurement rearward to the beginning of the hook bend. Start taking wraps of tying thread to anchor the marabou to the top of the hook shank all the way back to the bend, then forward to the wire wraps. With the marabou completely secured, you can reach in with your tying scissors and snip the excess butt end off close. Get hold of the thinner silver wire and snip off about a 4-inch length. Place one end of the wire against the near side of the hook at the back end of the wire and take thread wraps to secure it. Allow thread torque to push the wire to the far side of the hook as you take wraps rearward to the base of the tail. End with your tying thread just in front of the hook point. Pull down on your bobbin to expose about 5 inches of thread and give it a liberal coating of dubbing wax. Tease out an ample clump of the black dubbing, and while keeping the fibers roughly parallel to your tying thread, twist them on to form a loose dubbing noodle. You'll probably need to repeat this process a couple of times in order to build up a substantial noodle, one that will cover the entire length of the exposed hook shank. Start taking wraps with the noodle until you have a full wrap of dubbing around the shank right at the base of the tail. Using both hands, twist the dubbing clockwise to tighten the noodle. Then, while holding onto the noodle with your right hand, make touching wraps up the shank to create a nice even body on the fly. Ideally, the dubbing should end right at the back edge of the cone head. Select one of the orange schlappen feathers and pull down a dozen or so fibers from either side of the stem at the butt end. Snip the fibers off to form a small triangular tie-in anchor. Just a few stubby little fibers sticking out will do a remarkable job of helping to anchor the slippery stem. Push the butt end of the stem up into the cone and take several nice tight thread wraps to secure it. Get hold of the feather and start making open spiral wraps with it down the hook all the way to the base of the tail. Once there, get hold of the silver wire, anchor the feather with it, then make open spiral wraps with it up the hook shank. At the back of the cone, use your tying thread to firmly anchor the silver wire, then helicopter to break the excess off close. With everything secured, reach in with your tying scissors and snip the excess tip of the schlappen feather off close. Again, get hold of the black dubbing and tease out a couple of clumps of fibers. Separate the fibers several times, like this, to bring them into alignment and even out their length. Find the approximate midpoint of the clump and place it on the far side of the hook behind the bead. Take a thread wrap to distribute the fibers around both the far side and bottom of the fly. Then sweep the forward pointing ends rearward and take thread wraps to hold them back. Repeat the process of teasing out the dubbing once again, and this time place the midpoint of the fibers against the near side of the hook, then anchor them. When these fibers are pulled back, you should have a black collar that completely encircles the front end of the fly. Pick up your whip finish tool and use it to do a 5 or 6 turn whip finish behind the cone. Seat the knot well and snip your tying thread free. An old toothbrush does a remarkable job of teasing out and smoothing both the schlappen and the dubbing fibers. If anything is too long or off kilter, simply snip it away. And that's the Conehead Twisted Bugger, ready to fish.